The air reeked of betrayal. And Karen Hoa's smug grin was the cherry on top of this rancid cake. She stood there, meaty hands on her hips, acting like she owned the world world. Specifically, which she'd just sold out from under me while I was dodging bullets overseas. I'm Lieutenant Marcus Reed. And for 2 years, I'd been stationed in a dusty corner of the world, leading my unit through hell. My little plot of land in Willow Creek, a quiet gated community, was my Ancora promise of home. I'd bought it fair and square, a modest acre to build a life on when I returned. But Karen, the HOA president with a vendetta against anyone who didn't kiss her ring, had other plans. She'd forged documents, claimed I'd abandoned the property, and sold it to a developer for a fat commission. All while I was risking my life for the country. I found out through a grainy email from my neighbor, Mrs. Delgado, a tough old widow who'd seen Karen's schemes unfold. Marcus, she's a snake, Mrs. Delgado wrote. She's been fleecing folks for years. But this is low, even for her. Karen had a reputation, loud, entitled, and always looking down her nose at anyone who didn't fit her vision of community standards. She'd fine people for untrimmed hedges, harass single moms for parking violations, and once tried to evict a veteran for flying an American flag. But selling my land, that was her magnum opus of malice. I got back to Willow Creek on a muggy August evening, my duffel bag slung over my shoulder, still wearing my fatigues. The community gate, usually pristine, looked ominous under the darkening sky. Mrs. Delgado was waiting for me, her cane tapping impatiently. She's at the clubhouse, gloating, she said, her eyes blazing. You need to confront her, Marcus. Now. The clubhouse was a sterile, beige monument to Karen's ego, filled with her tacky floral decor and a bulletin board plastered with her community improvement notices. Karen was there, holding court with 2 of her lackeys, a couple of spineless HOA board members who nodded at her every word. She was mid-rant about property values when I walked in. The room went silent, her beady eyes locking onto me like a hawk spotting prey. Well, look who's back, she sneered, her voice dripping with condescension. The war hero, crawling home to make trouble. Her double chin quivered as she crossed her arms, her gaudy gold bracelets clinking. Trouble, I said, stepping closer, my boots heavy on the polished floor. You sold my land, Karen. Forged my signature. Pocketed the cash. That's not trouble, that's a crime. Her lackeys shifted uncomfortably, but Karen didn't flinch. You weren't here, Marcus. The community needed that land for progress. A developer's building condos real value, not some pipe dream of a shack you'll never afford to build. She smirked, like she'd already won. Mrs. Delgado, who'd followed me in, slammed her cane on the floor. You're a thief, Karen. You've been bleeding this place dry, and now you're stealing from a soldier. Her voice cracked with fury, but Karen just rolled her eyes. Stay out of this, old woman, Karen snapped. This is HOA business, not your knitting circle. That's when I noticed the papers on the table me deed, stamped with a fake notary seal. My blood boiled. I'd spent years dreaming of that land, sketching floor plans in my bunk between missions. It was my future, and she'd turned it into her payday. You're done, Karen, I said, my voice low but steady. I've already contacted the county. They know about your little scam. And I made a call to some friends who don't take kindly to people stealing from soldiers. Her smirk faltered, But she doubled down. You're bluffing. No one's going to listen to a grunt like you over me. I run this place. That's when the rumble started. A low, mechanical growl from outside. Karen's lackeys peered out the window, their faces paling. I didn't need to look, I knew what was coming. I'd called in a favor from my CO, who'd looped in the National Guard unit stationed nearby. They weren't here to play nice. The clubhouse door swung open, and in walked Captain Torres, a no-nonsense officer I'd served with. Behind him, 2 MPs and a county sheriff. Karen's jaw dropped, her bravado crumbling like cheap plaster. Karen, HOA, the sheriff said, holding up a warrant. You're under arrest for fraud, forgery, and theft. He gestured to the MPs. And this entire community is under investigation for HOA misconduct. We're seizing the records and the property. Karen sputtered, her face turning a blotchy red. You can't do this. This is my community. I built it. You built it on lies. Mrs. Delgado shot back, her voice sharp as a blade. You bullied us. Fined us. Stole from us. You thought you were untouchable. The MPs moved in, cuffing Karen as she shrieked about her rights. Her lackeys scattered, mumbling excuses. But the sheriff wasn't done. The developer deal's been frozen. He said to me, your land's still yours. Lieutenant, we'll make this right. Outside, the National Guard trucks were parked along the community's manicured streets, their presence a stark contrast to the pastel houses and perfectly trimmed lawns. Residents gathered, whispering, some cheering quietly. Karen's reign of terror had alienated more than just my families. Retirees, single parents, all fed up with her tyranny. As they led her to the squad car, Karen twisted to glare at me. You think you've won? She hissed. You're nothing but a washed-up soldier with a useless patch of dirt. I met her gaze, unflinching. That dirt's my home. And you're the one in cuffs. The crowd parted as they took her away, her screams fading into the humid night. Mrs. Delgado put a hand on my arm, her eyes soft but fierce. You did good, Marcus. This place needed a reckoning. The weeks that followed were chaos in the best way. The HOA was dissolved, its corrupt board exposed for skimming dues and rigging contracts. The developer backed off when the county voided the sale, and my land was returned, deed and all. I started building, hammering stakes into the ground myself, each one a middle finger to Karen's legacy. Karen's trial was a spectacle. She tried to play the victim, claiming she was protecting the community. But the evidence was overwhelming: forged documents, secret bank accounts, even emails where she bragged about teaching that soldier a lesson. The judge wasn't amused. She got 7 years, plus restitution she'd never afford. Her gated mansion, bought with her ill-gotten gains, was seized and auctioned off. The proceeds went to the residents she'd swindled. But the real victory wasn't just Karen's fall. It was the community coming together. Mrs. Delgado organized a new neighborhood council, one that actually listened. We planted a community garden on the edge of my lot, a place for kids to play and old folks to gossip. Every nail I drove into my new home felt like a promise kept not just to myself, but to everyone Karen had hurt. I'd fought wars abroad, but this one felt personal. Karen thought she could break me, break us, with her greed and her sneers. Instead, she lost everything: her power, her home, her freedom, and me. I got my land back, a roof over my head, and a neighborhood that finally felt like home. Sometimes, justice doesn't just knock, it rolls in with an army truck. The end.